The Galactic Council had gathered in the towering spires of Celestara Prime, the capital of the Union that bound over 1,000 species together in uneasy peace. Each delegate shimmered in their own kind of authority, scaled, feathered, chitinous, crystalline, but all their attention was drawn to one empty seat at the circular table. The seat reserved for the newest and most unpredictable member species, humanity. No one could remember a time when an empty chair had caused such unease. Counselor Tyrell of the Anik fluttered his translucent wings in agitation. "Are they coming or not?" he demanded, voice clicking through a translator field. "They were summoned. This meeting determines their status within the Union after their incident." Across the table, the Archon of Velian shifted its metallic body, ripples of light cascading across its surface. "They received the summons," it replied. "And they refused to answer." The room erupted in discordant noise, hisses, hums, clicks, and telepathic vibrations. For centuries, the Galactic Council had settled disputes with words, not silence. But humanity's refusal was not just silence, it was defiance. Admiral Karth of the Zalithi struck the table with a heavy claw. They destroyed a pirate fleet without authorization. They annihilated ships that surrendered. Then, when we called for an inquiry, they ignored it. And now this. Do they believe themselves above the Council? The silence that followed was thick with uncertainty. Some races viewed humanity as allies, stubborn, brilliant, and courageous. Others whispered that they were dangerous relics from a forgotten age of war. The humans had joined the Union only 30 years earlier, and in that short time they had reshaped trade routes, rebuilt devastated colonies, and rewritten the meaning of strategy. They were efficient, unpredictable, and utterly alien in their morality. But this silence felt different. The Council's speaker, an ancient being of energy named Vaynor, finally pulsed with light. They must respond. No species can disregard the Council's summons, and yet the humans did. Days passed. Fleets were dispatched to Earth's claimed territories, but they found no resistance, only quiet observation. Human ships hovered in the void, their black hulls featureless and cold. No transmissions, no greetings. Every attempt to hail them was met with nothing but static. On the third day, a scout vessel of the Othari approached one of the human dreadnoughts. The dreadnought's hull bore no markings, no lights. When the Othari sent a proximity ping, the human ship answered with a single pulse of encrypted data. It was unreadable. Then the dreadnought turned away and vanished into fold space. Back at Celestara Prime, the Council's unease had turned into fear. "They are preparing something," said Karth. "No one ignores the Council unless they are ready to challenge it." "They wouldn't dare," replied Vaynor, though even its voice flickered with doubt. "Humanity is small compared to the great civilizations of the Union. They cannot stand against all of us." But a low voice from the end of the chamber disagreed. It belonged to a quiet being of the Rel species, known for observation and long memory. "You do not understand them," it said softly. "When they refuse to talk, it is not pride. It is warning." The chamber fell into another uneasy silence. A week later, the first data burst arrived. It came through deep space relay channels, encrypted in an ancient human code no alien system could decipher. It contained coordinates, nothing more. Council fleets moved cautiously toward those coordinates, expecting traps, ambushes, or declarations of rebellion. Instead, they found a ruined moon orbiting a red dwarf star. On its surface were the remains of a massive city, glassed by what looked like orbital bombardment. But the ruins were old, centuries old, predating humanity's arrival into galactic space. Among the wreckage lay thousands of skeletons from dozens of alien races, some extinct. Each was fused into the blackened earth, and on the highest ridge burned into the stone was a single human phrase: "We warned you once." No one understood what it meant. The Council reconvened in panic. Delegates argued, accused, demanded explanations. The humans remained silent. Theories spread like wildfire. Some believed the humans had discovered an ancient atrocity and sought vengeance. Others claimed they had uncovered forbidden technology. A few whispered of something older, something the humans had found buried beneath forgotten worlds. Finally, Vaynor broke the deadlock. "Enough. If they will not speak, we will go to them. I will send an envoy to Earth itself." The Council approved the motion, though fear lingered in every mind. When the envoy fleet arrived in Sol, The sight that greeted them shattered centuries of certainty. Earth hung silent beneath its blue-white clouds. Orbital stations glimmered, but none responded. The human defense network was active but non-hostile. The Envoy's flagship descended through the atmosphere, escorted by automated drones that offered no communication, only silent guidance. They landed at Geneva Spire, the headquarters of the Terran Assembly. The city was immaculate. Gardens bloomed, streets gleamed, and not a soul was visible. The only movement came from service drones maintaining the city in perfect order. In the assembly hall, the Envoy found a single holographic console waiting. When activated, it displayed a human face, not living but recorded. "Counselors," the image said calmly, "you have reached Earth." The voice was neither warm nor hostile. "We do not wish to speak further. You have condemned us without trial, accused us without evidence, and dismissed the warnings we sent years ago. So now we observe." "Observe what?" one envoy asked, trembling slightly. The hologram turned its gaze toward them. "You're unraveling." The message ended. The envoys searched for answers, but every database, every archive on Earth was locked behind security protocols beyond comprehension. They returned to the Council, shaken. Within days of their return, the Council's networks began to fail. First communication hubs, then trade relays, then entire star charts went dark. It was not sabotage in the conventional sense, no virus, no attack. Instead, systems simply stopped responding. The encryption keys used across the Union ceased functioning. The only compatible format that remained operational was human. The Council realized too late that the humans had built the communication backbone of the modern galaxy. Every major relay, every deep space transmission array, human-engineered, maintained, and encrypted. And now the keys had changed. Panic erupted. Fleets could not coordinate, colonies could not trade, and orders could not be transmitted. The Council demanded an explanation, but humanity remained silent. Weeks passed. Famine began on the outer colonies. Civil unrest tore through the trade worlds. Species that had relied on human efficiency to sustain their economies found themselves in chaos. And still, the humans did nothing. Then one morning cycle on Celestera Prime, a human vessel appeared in orbit alone. It did not respond to hails. It simply broadcast an open signal, translated into every known galactic tongue. "This is not retaliation," the message said. "This is consequence. You dismissed our words, ignored our warnings, and believed silence was weakness. We warned you once before the War of the First Expanse. You repeated their mistakes." The message ended there. The Council scrambled for meaning. The records of the First Expanse were fragmentary, lost wars from an age before recorded galactic history. If humans had knowledge of it, it meant they had found something ancient, something terrible. The lone human ship left orbit and disappeared into deep space. No trace remained but the echo of its transmission. Months later, the pattern became clear. Across the galaxy, systems began to restore themselves, not through Council intervention, but through human code updates automatically transmitted through dormant channels. The updates carried no messages, no demands. They simply repaired what was broken, yet the repairs came at a cost. Every network now bore the mark of human origin. Every console, relay, and archive displayed a faint insignia, a circle of light, with a single phrase beneath it. "You were warned." The Council tried to contact Earth again, desperate to re-establish diplomacy, but every attempt failed. Humanity had withdrawn entirely. Their colonies were sealed, their fleets hidden. The once friendly ambassadors had disappeared. The galaxy was left to govern itself without human mediation, and the results were catastrophic. Old rivalries reignited, trade collapsed, even minor border disputes erupted into war. It was then the Council finally understood. Humanity's silence was not punishment. It was demonstration. They had built the systems that held the galaxy together, not through dominance but through competence. And when they withdrew, the galaxy realized how fragile unity truly was. A century later, long after the chaos had burned itself out, a lone probe drifted into the ruins of Celestera Prime. Its signal was ancient human code. When decrypted, it played a single message. The voice was calm, familiar, unmistakably human. "Galactic unity was never built on trust," it said. "It was built on convenience. You learned that the hard way. We do not hate you. We do not seek vengeance, but when silence falls, you should listen. The transmission ended. In the archives of the Reborn Union, the file was cataloged as the final human message. It became a lesson for every species that rose after, the story of the beings who had refused to speak not out of arrogance, but out of knowledge too vast and ancient to explain. And in the quiet corners of the galaxy, when strange signals flickered across forgotten channels, some still whispered that humanity,